Welcome back to the F1OWC and welcome back to Russia for the Season 9 Russian Grand Prix here at the Sochi Autodrome. So as the drivers pull away from the grid to begin their formation lap, let's take a quick look at the qualifying results from last night that did see Ferrari clinch the pole position for the first time in the history of the Russian Grand Prix. So there we have it, Brian Cruz, new lap record pole position for a non-Mercedes powered engine for the first time, alongside Kurt Dunn, the Sahara Force India's first front row start. Brandon Tanti struggled a little bit there in qualifying, third ahead of Lindsay Hobbs, who makes his return to form once again after being demoted from the podium last time out. Kane Hoggard fifth ahead of a struggling Dylan Anderson, who qualified P6 for Red Bull. It'll be a difficult afternoon ahead for him. Daniel Aspo makes his return to the F1OWC, out-qualifies Arthur Chisengo, once again flies the flag for Zambia in the McLaren Honda P8. Peter Dongo, well, it's difficult to say. P9, struggling in comparison to his teammate. With Jesem there, into the 10 for Williams once again. Steve Shadlow, P11, it'll be difficult for him, but he has a free choice of tyre compound. Out-qualifies Luke Snake, who is struggling to get the terms with the Mercedes-AMG Petronas. Liam McLaren once again flies a flag for New Zealand. It's 13th place, unlucky for him. And we've got Jonathan Formica out-qualifies Craig for the first time for Sauber, with Sauber locking out the back row of the competitive grid once again. We've got Robert Janowski and Chris Patajak, who have both sat out of this race with DNFs to their name. So we've got a 27-lap Russian Grand Prix coming up. The circuit is a 5.848 kilometre with 18 turns. It is our 7th running of the Russian Grand Prix, debuted back in Season 3 with Mitchell Collin and Williams Martini Racing winning the inaugural Russian Grand Prix. So we're riding on board with Brandon Tanti here. His third place is behind debutant Kurt Dunn there in the Force India. It'll be interesting to see how the Force India and Kurt gets away up against Brian Cruz there in the Ferrari, who makes his 31st pole position in his F1OWC career. A quick shout out, Dylan Anderson makes his 160th Grand Prix appearance in the F1OWC, and one of the remaining few drivers that have been around for as long as he has. So the drivers are pulling up onto the grid, the end of the formation lap. The last little system checks of the cars. Everyone, the green flag's been waved at the back of the grid, holding in the clutch. It's 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And it's lights out, and away we go. We're underway here in the Sochi Autodrome in Russia, and Kurt Dunn has got a slow start. He's been overtaken there by Brandon Tanti in the Red Bull. Lindsay Hobbs is having all sorts of manoeuvres here behind the Red Bull, and they've touched heading down into turn 2, and it looks like Brandon Tanti's lost out to both Kurt Dunn in the Force India and Lindsay Hobbs in the Mercedes. So he'll have to settle for 4th place as Dylan Anderson jumps Kane Hoggard in the Renault to move up to 5th. And there's been a massive moment there by Kurt Dunn, the rookie, and he has gone off the circuit at turn 4. He's obviously been caught out by the heavy fuel load and the turbulent air there behind the Ferrari. Brian Cruz, who I have to say has got a very clean start and kept his nerve against the hungry pack there, going 4 wide into turn 2. We've got Brandon Tanti runs a little bit wide going through 7 as he gets the double apex of turn 8 and 9. But we're jumping on board here with Steve Shadlow, who's behind Arthur Chisenga in the McLaren, who's also navigating turn 8 and 9, and it's looking very interesting there. And it looks like Steve Shadlow might be nursing a little bit of front wing damage there, picked up in the early tussle on the run down through turn 1 into turn 2, but he's battling with Jesem there in the Williams as we ride back on board with Brian Cruz in the Ferrari. He's breaking down into turn 3, navigates under the bridge, turn 14. He's holding off and attacking Lindsay Hobbs as we've got Luke Snake there in the other Mercedes. He's rotated around under the bridge between 13 and 14, and he's dropped down to dead last, and it's absolutely caps off a disappointing race, a disappointing season there for the new Mercedes driver. So the first lap is completed. It's a fastest lap there for Brian Cruz. Naturally, Jonathan Formica's left the session, so that continues his streak of DNF finishes. And we're riding back on board with Brandon Tanti as he looks for a lunge down here on Lindsay Hobbs of the Mercedes, and they're both giving themselves maximum respect, but Brandon Tanti's been caught out on the curb, and Dylan Anderson says, yes please, I'm going through, and it's Anderson one up there on Brandon Tanti, and I have to say, it's the first time this season that Dylan Anderson has led a race over his teammate since the first time since back in winter testing. So it's Anderson on the attack now up against Lindsay Hobbs in the Mercedes, and he goes purple as everyone will be on this first lap. Can Dylan Anderson attack the back of the Mercedes and hopefully latch onto the back of the Ferrari and potentially be in a position to win his 45th Grand Prix finish here in the F1OWC? So a little snap there of oversteer as we're navigating up to the tricky turn 10. It's all flat here, there's all concrete runoff area. It's not your traditional circuit with the gravel trap runoff areas, so there's room there to push the limits of the track, and we're closing in on the back of Lindsay Hobbs. He goes left, he doesn't want to repeat what happened in season 9. It's heavy under braking, leave him room because Hobbs is going to run deep, and they bang, and it's absolutely perfect racing here by the pair of them. There's a few snaps of oversteer there by Anderson, showed his skill and his experience to catch it, and absolutely fair play there by both drivers. And it's extreme on the limit racing here in the Sochi Autodrome as we're coming to the end of lap 2. Brandon Tanti is close enough to capitalise on a mistake, but he doesn't want to be close enough to be caught up with the front two end up tangling each other. It'd be a disastrous turn of events for Red Bull Racing Tagoya. And we've got Kane Hoggard here in P5 as we've got Dylan Anderson going for a lunge on Lindsay Hobbs. He's going to take second place in the Grand Prix, but no, he's run deep and he's gone across the curb, but he's lifted out of it. He's yielded the position back to Lindsay Hobbs, which is an absolutely intelligent move there because you don't want to be coming under investigation if you're in the position to contest the top 2 places in the race. So Dylan Anderson's settled back and slotted back into 3rd place behind the Mercedes, who seems to be a little bit of a wedge here in Red Bull's attack on closing down the back of the Ferrari. But Brandon Tanti, we're going to have a look here at the race start, might give us an answer to what happened to Steve Chabot and why he's picked up this wing damage. So, and Joel Jessam's moved across, and they've both ended up in the fence, and very lucky men to walk away from that.
Wow, good start.
And not be out of the Grand Prix with losing a wheel there. So extremely lucky turn of events there. But we're riding on board with the battle of the race at the moment. Lindsay Hobbs is attacking the back of Dylan Anderson in the Red Bull. He's going for the lunge. It's rolls reverse this time. Is he going to pull it up? Don't run across the curb. And he's kept it on the track. And Anderson reluctantly has to settle for 3rd place again as he continues his pursuit of passing the Mercedes. Meanwhile, the Ferrari of Brian Cruz is absolutely accelerating away at the front of pack of this Season 9 Russian Grand Prix. So the gap between Lindsay Hobbs and the Ferrari is 3.1 seconds. Anderson's got a run here coming up to turn 6 and 7. Don't go too wide through there. He's cut the curb to try and avoid the side of the side pod of the Mercedes, and Hobbs has run deep and lock up there, and they've almost, I don't know how Anderson missed the back of the Mercedes there, but it was really wheel-to-wheel racing. There was nothing left in that, and that could have been disastrous, not only for Anderson and Lindsay Hobbs, but also Brandon Tanti, our reigning world champion, who was right on the gearbox of his teammate there, and that could have absolutely been the race and potentially the championship with Brian Cruz leading out front. So Lindsay Hobbs has lost out there after running deep in turn 8 and 9. He's been passed by Brandon Tanti, and he's going to be passed by Kane Hoggard. They bang side pods, and he squeezes him off the track. There's definitely no love lost there. He's made Kane Hoggard and the Renault go the hard way around the circuit. He's cut the corner there into penultimate turn 17, and that could come under fire there from the stewards as he did cut the corner and gain an advantage by staying ahead of the Renault. So we're back aboard with Brandon Tanti as he runs down to turn 2 on lap 5. And Kane Hoggard is slipped past Lindsay Hobbs, so there's a continuation there from the penultimate corner. Kane Hoggard's obviously got the better run out of that turn 18, and he's made it work with DRS assistance down into turn 2, and it's Kane Hoggard up into P4 of the Russian Grand Prix. Lindsay Hobbs running wide here next to turn 4. So it's purple sector 1 there for Brandon Tanti, who is 4 tenths behind his teammate, who seems to be unable to close the gap to the Ferrari ahead, which is compromising Tanti's race a little bit. Now these two, they do not want to be battling, because not only does it punish themselves and allow them to drop back into the cars behind them, into Kane Hoggard behind them, but it also allows Brian Cruz a free pass into the lead by not being attacked by the Red Bulls. So these guys have to play it very sensibly here if they want to stay competitive but not slow each other down. So in lap 5, we're just coming through turn 14 on the run down to turn 15. There's a purple second sector there for Brandon Tanti in the Red Bull, so he's definitely on the pace. He's showing the pace really early on, which is good to see after he lost 2 places there at the start of the race going through turn 2. With Brian Cruz claiming the fastest lap, but it's immediately broken by Brandon Tanti. He gets a 1:38.737 as DRS assistance is beginning to close into the back of his teammate, but more importantly, they're pulling away from Kane Hoggard into the Renault. So we're on board with Dylan Anderson here. We can see the mirrors are absolutely submerged with the front wing of his teammate as they go through the fast, flat-out left-hander of turn 3 and the run down to turn 4. 8th gear on the brakes. Tanti is he's biding his time. He's waiting for the opportunity, but you can see the Ferrari there off into the distance, unopposed and unchallenged at this point of the Grand Prix, with the split at 4 seconds between first and second. So we're running through here the tricky turn 7 and 8 complex. Brandon Tanti runs wide there over the curb, and it's not going to help him one bit at all if he wants to carry this momentum through the tricky stages of this middle sector, a sector that Anderson has been quite strong at, which has been shown throughout practice by getting that traction down. It's very flat, there's no undulation, and that plays into the hands of Dylan Anderson in the Red Bull, more so than what it does with Brandon Tanti. He likes a bit of undulation. So we're heavy braking down into turn 3. The DRS has closed in the gap in the back of Anderson, and if he really wants to challenge for the win, it needs to be now. But these guys, they need to play it smart. If Anderson feels that he's holding up his teammate for the best interest of the team, he needs to release the position to Brandon Tanti, for Brandon to be able to close the gap to Brian, pass him, and not only for the teammate, for the Drivers' Championship, but also for the Team Championship. Brandon Tanti can get ahead. He could potentially then slow Brian Cruz and Ferrari down back into Dylan Anderson and hopefully walk away with a 1-2 finish here in the Sochi Autodrome, which would be a fantastic result for the team, who seems to be back on winning form for the first time. It's the first time they've had 2 competitive, strong drivers since probably season 1. The first time in their history that they've ever had 2 world champions in their driver lineup. So it's fantastic to see Red Bull back on form. They haven't won a Constructors' Championship since season 1, with Dylan Anderson and Wayne Taylor there back in season 1 for Red Bull in the debut season. But they haven't won a Drivers' Championship since season 2. So both drivers here are in a position to win that with the mixture of experience and youth, with the youth being Brandon Tanti here, reigning world champion. He's carrying a lot of success, and hopefully these two can bring in more silverware that has been absent for Red Bull for a long, long time. So we're riding back on board still with Brandon Tanti. He's 3/10 behind his teammate going into turn 13, 14, lap 7 here. We're on board with Dylan Anderson now. He seems to be struggling, the tyres seem to be aging, and he's missed it, he's run deep, and he needs to not come back on at front and compromise his teammate. Maximum respect there. He tried to take the most narrowest apex through turn 16. He lost a lot of time, but what he wanted to do there, he didn't want to try and go back onto the racing line and potentially rotate there into the side of his teammate and squeeze him, or even squeeze his teammate into the wall there. So fair play for Dylan Anderson. He gave his teammate absolute maximum respect there, knowing that he'd lost out the position. So Brandon Tanti is pulling away. He's beginning to hopefully close the gap to Brian Cruz and really make this a 2-horse race within the Season 9 Russian Grand Prix. So we're riding on board Lindsay Hobbs in the Mercedes. He's closing in. He's touched the wall there in his pursuit of Kane Hoggard. And yes, absolutely, he's boxed this lap. And this is the simulation damage. He would have been out of the race 110%. So he's got away there very, very lucky. Now, there's a little bit of contact going into turn 1 the first lap. But Kurt Dunn took his end plate off, so Mercedes should be here with a new front wing, and yes, they are. So it's a fresh set of tyres and a new front wing here for Lindsay Hobbs in the Mercedes, but he's going to lose an absolute bucket load of positions. He's down into P7 behind Craig Campen in Sauber, who I have to say from the last row, last place of the grid, he was up into P6 for Sauber there. So huge efforts there in the first 11 laps of this Russian Grand Prix there for Craig Campen in the Sauber. So we're back on board. Dylan Anderson, he's P3. He's dropped. He's 4.7 seconds behind his teammate of Brandon Tanti. So in the space of 4 laps, the 4-time world champion has lost a bucket load of time, and I'm pretty sure it's down to tyres. Now, I know this is a very grip-sensitive track, and once the grip levels start to drop, it can become quite a handful. So it's into the pit lane, the 4-time world champion. You don't want to get a speed penalty there, so he slows down well before the line. It's better to sacrifice a couple of tenths coming in rather than saving 30 seconds with the drive-through. So hopefully a clean stop here for Red Bull Racing as 2.6 seconds, and it's back out into the Russian Grand Prix therefore. Oh, and Brian Cruz is slowed. Has he got a problem? No, he hasn't. He's just let his Season 9 championship rival, Brandon Tanti, past. And not only that, he's run deep into turn 2. So he's given Brandon Tanti a free kick in this Season 9 championship and this Russian Grand Prix by yielding the race lead for, I've got no idea, I've got no explanations. I'm sure Nuzia Rivbene and the guys back at the factory will be scratching their heads as to why Brian Cruz simply pulled over on the run to turn 2 and gave the race lead to their championship rival Brandon Tanti. So there'll be a big inquest into why that has happened. Potentially maybe Brian is suffering there with some worn rear tyres, but I don't think that would be enough to want to yield the position to your rival. I'm sure you'd want to make it as difficult for him as you can. Brandon Tanti, who's opening up a 1.2 second lead in the space of a lap after being gifted the race lead, and should be due to come into the pits at any moment now. With Kane Hoggard there in 3rd place, obviously he's got ahead of Dylan Anderson in the pit stops, and I think it's tyre choice and tyre wear that caused Brian Cruz to do that. Is he's into the pits, and pull up, mate. You've got a 5-second stop go for speeding into the pit lane, and I'm absolutely disappointed, and I expect a little bit more from the Season 7 world champion. Pretty rookie error there. So not only has he yielded the position to Brandon Tanti, he's also got a 5-second stop-go penalty. So it's been an absolutely scruffy lap from Brian Cruz, who was looking unstoppable in the opening parts of this Grand Prix in Russia for Season 9. Back on board with Lindsay Hobbs in the Mercedes, who's pitted. He's got the fresh front wing, and he's looking to damage limitation the disappointing start to this Russian Grand Prix after being as high as 2nd place in the Grand Prix, and he sails past Jesem there in the Williams, who drops down to P5. So it has to be said that it's been a pretty good start there for Jesem, who's up into 5th in this Grand Prix. So we're on board with race leader Brandon Tanti, who's done his pit stop, and so Brian Cruz has passed him. So Brian, despite the undercut, despite yielding the position, he's got the undercut on Brandon Tanti. So maybe it was a little bit of lift and coast there to harvest some fuel. But it looks like, speaking of fuel, Dylan Anderson is fuel sensitive at the moment. He's 0.10 laps down on enough fuel to finish his Grand Prix. So it's going to be fuel critical from this point, only halfway through this Russian Grand Prix. So it's a bit concerning turn of events there for Dylan Anderson in the Red Bull. Lindsay Hobbs is come under attack a little bit from Jesem in the Williams, but he's just got to hold on to this 4th place and capitalise on any incidents that happen ahead. As we're back on board with Brian Cruz, who's gone off the track again into turn 10, and Brandon Tanti is gifted another race lead overtake. So I've got no idea what is happening inside that helmet, inside that cockpit in the Ferrari, but it has definitely come unstuck here in the Season 9 Russian Grand Prix, as once again Brian Cruz has yielded first place to his championship rival, and Brandon Tanti must be thinking it's Christmas, because he is now in a position to lead the race and potentially win his 14th career win in the F1OWC. Right, so Brandon Tanti goes on to set a new fastest lap of the race with a 1:37.456. So it's been an absolute game of cat and mouse here in the Season 9 Russian Grand Prix as we set about the 27th and final lap with 4 tenths between our race leaders, and we've got our rookie Kurt Dunn of Force India in P6 ahead of his teammate Daniel Aspo. But we're looking here at the race leaders. Brian Cruz somehow front and attack on Brandon Tanti heading down the DRS straight into turn 13 to potentially steal the Russian Grand Prix win from Brandon Tanti after gifting the Red Bull driver 2 free passes to win this Grand Prix. If Brandon wins the Grand Prix, I'm sure Brian Cruz and Ferrari will be absolutely livid and be kicking themselves as the opportunity was given away after such a strong 11 laps at the start of the Grand Prix. But let's not forget that these two guys were teammates at the end of last season for Mercedes-AMG Petronas. They both won the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships respectively, but now they're new colours here in Season 9, going head-to-head against each other for the first time in their careers. So as we come down into turn 13, there was no attack there from the Ferrari. It looks like Brandon Tanti is going to hold on as long as he doesn't understeer like Dylan Anderson did into turn 15, hug the apex, close any opportunity of attack. And Brandon Tanti is on the run down into turn 17 for Red Bull, and he's not going to be overtaken by Brian Cruz in the Ferrari, and Brandon Tanti rounds the final corner, and Red Bull are back on top in the F1OWC, and Brandon Tanti wins his 14th career victory in the F1OWC. Brian Cruz, meanwhile, surpasses 1,000 career points in his F1OWC, and Dylan Anderson claims his 101st podium finish on his 160th Grand Prix start. 14th time lucky, wins the Season 9 Russian Grand Prix for Red Bull Racing Tag Heuer, the second double podium finish for Red Bull this season, and it's absolutely jubilation here. It's 2 apiece in the F1OWC, with Brian Cruz winning the first 2, Brandon Tanti claiming the second, closing in the championship points only to a handful of points. So we're looking at the results here. Brandon Tanti P1, Brian Cruz P2 for Ferrari by 2 tenths of a second there at the end, taking on board his 10-second penalty for that 5-second stop-go. Dylan Anderson P3, 101st podium finish. Lindsay Hobbs P4, Kane Hoggard P5, Kurt Dunn on his debut outperforms his teammate Daniel Aspo. Craig Campen from the back of the grid to claim a single point for Sauber F1. Peter Dongo, terrible run of form, outside the points in P11. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this coverage, and we'll see you once again next time out in Barcelona.